afternoon, everyone. Very nice to meet you all. Thank you, Reese, for inviting me to speak at this conference as well. My name is Fumi Oladipo, and my presentation is going to be on the race, ethnicity, and cultural heritage staff network, fostering staff belonging. The purpose of this network is to create a safe space for ethnic minority staff, to share our experiences and knowledge and promote our interests, as well as raising issues that we experience to influence the university to adopt policies, shape procedures, and make this a better and safer and more enjoyable working environment for everyone involved. We also welcome white allies who are key to having these effective conversations as well. Now, during this presentation, I will be making reference to ethnic minorities to describe people who are not seen as white. There are so many different descriptions for Black and brown people. It would be that reductive, non-white, as if whiteness is the default. People of color, very Americanized term. Racialized minorities, ethnically or racialized, marginalized backgrounds. There's a lot of terminology floating around, but my first choice for much consideration is ethnic minorities. Who am I? Bit of a background in terms of my career at the University of Sunderland. So I've been here for 7.5 years, and my work experience has been predominantly within academic registry and student journey. So I had a very short yet sweet secondment with the progression team, who I believe are now known as Student Success and Transition Team. But predominantly I've worked in academic registry, specifically within the program admin team. So I worked in the formerly known Faculty of Arts and Creative Industries. Then I moved to the Faculty of Health Sciences and Wellbeing. Then I returned to the Faculty of Arts and Creative Industries, this time in the role of coordinator. So that means I oversee a small team who are responsible for ensuring that students transition from enrollment to hopefully graduation. And we also support academics as well to uphold academic standards. So the faculty has had a rebrand, and now I'm the coordinator for the School of Creative Industries within the Faculty of Education, Society and Creative Industries, known as FESCI. So the day job was going fine, but I wanted something more. I wanted a bit more of a challenge. And then in April 2022, I joined the then named BAME Network under the co-chairs of Shah Amin and Jalel Mian. They stepped down for their positions, and in January 2023, I became co-chair with Matthew Lee and Shandeep Sagira. So we were elected, I suppose. We put our names down and we were accepted by the network in January 2023, and we had our first meeting in February 2023. And one of our first calls of action, if you will, was to rename, rebrand the network. So we moved away from BAME and we became Reach. And this was to better reflect the unique and diverse backgrounds of our members. BAME is quite reductive. It's very much seen as white and BAME. It others us, and it lumps us all into one. Whereas Reach, it showcases our unique differences, and it also fosters a greater sense of belonging as well. There's one thing that isn't necessarily taken into consideration is when people think of ethnic minorities, they tend to pick up Black and brown faces. But you also have the Gypsy, Tribal and Roma, Showman, thank you, and Voters community as well, who are white, but they have their own unique, distinct culture as well. So with the rebrand to Reach was the hope that it would encourage these communities to join with us, and also mixed race people as well to join with our network. Now, this is not a criticism in terms of the previous BAME name. It was called BAME just due to government terminology. And you're never going to win in terms of what the name is. Guaranteed in a few years' time, we'll be fighting about Reach. Oh, it doesn't really represent who we are. We'll give it a different name there. But it was just time. It was time with new chairs in place and to reopen that discussion. And it was a discussion that had been had since the network started in 2020, but the focus very much was what can we actually do as a network and not keep returning to the name. So why did I join Reach? I will admit initially I was reluctant. I wasn't overly keen. In my mind, and it was very wrong, but in my mind, it just seemed like a space for ethnic minority staff, black and brown people to come together and lament about the woes of racism. I've got family and friends I can do that with. I know who they are and I trust them as well. So why would I want to do that in a work environment with people I don't know? And with that, I don't really trust. How are you going to keep my confidences and not go running and babbling? Amin, the previous co-chair, we used to work together previously. So he knew my name. He knew who I was. And he was wondering why I hadn't joined the network. We eventually managed to get our diaries in order and we met up to have a conversation. I was thankful of him. He was one of those few people in a work environment that I trusted and could have frank conversations with. I didn't want to have lamentations at work. We have enough lamentations with the day job. I don't want to add and compound to that the experiences I may be having out of work, and that might unfortunately come into work as well. He said that it isn't a getting together to lament, it's a getting together for action and support. Even though we will have those periods, depending on what's going on in this wonderful world that we live in, it is about action and support. After that conversation, I decided, okay, let's go for it. What's the worst that can happen? So I joined in April, and my first meeting was in June 2022. I remember that meeting well. It was a hybrid meeting. I decided I'm going to go in person. And in that room was the former Deputy Vice Chancellor who had oversight for EDI, John Timmins. And I was like, right, okay. You know, there's some influential people, B-Knocks as I call them, big names on campus, who actually have, anyone who went to University of York knows what I'm talking about. But we have somebody, a bigwig, who actually has a vested interest here. And that meeting was talking about mental health in students, particularly our international students, and how we can help and support them. I really enjoyed that meeting, and I enjoyed the subsequent ones as well. I felt reinvigorated with the day job, and towards the end of the year, I thought, I really want to lean into this network. How can I get further involved? Clearly, me saying that wasn't the reason why Sean and Jalal decided to step down, but it coincided with them stepping down. And I thought, how else can I potentially lean in than to put my name in the ring, my name in the hat, and say, actually, I am interested in being a co-chair. Or what if being a chair initially, not knowing that Shandeep and Matthew could also put their hats in the ring. Anyway, they showed their interest, and we were accepted by the network. Collaborations. This is the first of a few photographs, and people who know me will know I'm not really keen on being photographed. I made an effort and I put some in there. One of the aims of the network is to widen conversations and acknowledge racial experiences and contributions, take into consideration how ethnic minorities navigate and experience shared aspects of life, and how better to do that than we're collaborating throughout the university. And it helps to embed diversity of talk and thought. Our main collaboration is with the wonderful EDI team. Because this network, in addition to all the other networks, was created from the EDI team, from the former EDI manager. It's a small yet mighty team. And a couple of years after the network was created in 2020, the year of the start of the pandemic, Neve Gallagher joined as an intern, and she's currently now the EDI coordinator. There was a third member of the EDI team who joined as well, Beth Benamy. She's now left, and also Justine, as we know, has left her role as EDI manager. So the EDI team continues to be small, but with that, it also continues to be racist. These were our key collaborators, not just because we came into existence from them, but because they provided staff sessions on microaggressions, how to be a white ally, having those perceived difficult conversations and trying to widen it out to the staff body. As well as collaborating with staff, we also collaborated with the University of Sunderland Students' Union. We had the Global Food Festival, which became the Global Cultural Day, and that was to showcase the cultures of our vibrant student body. We rely heavily on international students, and they come here and they transition with a new culture, a new climate, a new language in some cases. While there's the argument of they have to adapt to our climate, our culture, they can also share their own culture and their own food and festivities with us. And that was the idea behind the Global Cultural Day. There's me looking slightly happy to be in this photograph. And on the right-hand side is our co-chair, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, Shanti Sabina. So as well as having collaborations with the EDI team and also the Students' Union, we have had other collaborations with some other networks that are in existence. The Family Network. And with that network, we went in December to discuss festivities, Christmas. When people think of Christmas, what do they usually think of? What's the stereotypical British snow? Santa coming down the chimney when it's snowy, putting presents beneath the tree. Holidays is coming, courtesy of Coca-Cola. That's our idea of Christmas, which might be true for some people, but for a lot, it doesn't resonate with how their Christmas actually is. So when we went into the network last December, we talked about different Christmas experiences from a family sense. Not everyone lives in a house. Not everyone has chimneys. So we talked about what's it like when you live in a block of flats. Can Santa actually visit you? Does Santa actually exist? If you don't have a chimney, does he visit the project? We also talked about other December festivities as well, like Hanukkah, the Jewish holiday. And we just showcased that different families, and it doesn't have to be racially linked, but different families experience Christmas and the holiday season in different ways. It is still courtesy of Coca-Cola. They have updated their adverts to showcase this. They still have a brand to sell, but they are acknowledging a family isn't a boy ringing a bell to say the Coca-Cola van is turning up. It could be 20 different people living in a block of flats all coming together to share one dinner together. Collaborated with the Enable Network, and we did this last October for Black History Month. And what we focused on during that collaboration was how neurodiversity and mental illness is further exacerbated by racism. We talked about how if you are a Black man suffering a psychotic breakdown, you are criminalized. You are seen as a danger. And we want to humanize that story and say, actually, do you need help? But if you're already being presented as a danger to society, tuning your skin color, having a mental breakdown further compounds that. So I talked about David Harewood, the actor, when he had his mental breakdown, and he wrote the book, Maybe I Don't Belong Here. We also talked about neurodiversity in the sense of dyslexia. So back in the 60s and 70s, I'm going to say, Black Caribbean students who had dyslexia were seen as disruptive and essentially segregated from the education system. It does happen with white students as well, but again, due to racism, it is further compounded. So those are some of our collaborations, and we do have more lined up in the future as well with other networks. We will be in talks with the Enable Network again to collaborate for Black History Month, which is next month, October. And we are also hoping to collaborate with Cine Club, which is run by the Film and Media academic team and their students, to continue to widen cinematic experiences and their knowledge through entertainment. Here's another picture of myself and Shandeep. I was off for about a week when I logged in to my laptop, US Online, and what do I see? My face grinning back at me. No one says welcome back to work and a beaming photo that you completely forgot that you took. But this highlights our successes that we've had as a network. We've got the name pronunciation tool. It's simple, it's free, and it's effective. And it recognizes the multicultural society we live in, and it helps to make that a successful society to live in, regardless of what some politicians think. I've had people, when I've gone to appointments, completely butcher my name. And I've just said, oh, actually, it's pronounced this way. And some of the responses I've had is, oh, it's difficult to get about an English tongue, isn't it? All right, okay, are you wondering why I haven't got time for you for the rest of the appointment? It's disrespectful. So with the name pronunciation tool, it's a simple way to check the pronunciation of the person you are interacting with. And for anyone who's saying, well, international people, foreigners who are coming, they have to learn our ways and our customs. It's a two-way street. Depending on who this person is, this foreigner that you're complaining about coming in, depending on what their ethnic background is, depending on what their nationality is, they might have different, potentially mispronounce your name. So for example, in Italian, CH together is a K. So somebody who's called Michelle, they will call Michele. So it's a two-way street in terms of it's helping people with different etymology rules understand how to pronounce somebody else's name, who on paper looks reasonably straightforward, but in reality is pronounced a different way. The Race Equality Charter. I have put this up as our success because it was a big success to get the university to agree to go ahead with that. And it shows the soft influential power that the network has in getting the university to commit and address barriers faced by ethnic minority students and staff. Shandeep and I were beaming in this photo because we had received the Bronze Trailblazer Award from Race Equality Matters charity. And this was a massive win for the network and also for the EDI team. All the work that we've done, we only looked at the 2022/3 years, but all the work we've done in terms of the sessions put on by Justine, on microaggressions and how to be a white ally, for example, the Global Cultural Day collaboration with the Student Union, the name pronunciation tool, Race Equality Charter, or REC, as we called it, diversifying leadership, which I will come on to in the next slide. It helped to demonstrate the steps that we are taking to drive race equality. And again, it's showcasing how we are fostering a sense of belonging. So even though it's only valid until July 2025, myself, Shandeep, and Matthew will be thinking about what we can do further to attain the Bronze Award or potentially go for silver. Diversifying leadership. This was also another success of ours. This was a pilot initiative that was initially ring-fenced to the REACH network, with the hope of expanding it to the wider university. It was still put forward for us to engage with and to feed back to the university and say, yes, it is worth investing in addressing the underrepresentation of ethnic minority leadership. The three main themes were power influence, demystifying leadership, and cultural identity and cultural capital. So ethnic minorities are often told, don't stick out, to blend in, to assimilate with your white colleagues, a lot of code switching as well, being welcomed, you know. With this program, it said there's nothing wrong with leaning into your cultural identity and your cultural capital, because you can introduce concepts that the people in the room, the gatekeepers, may not have initially considered. Cultural identity and cultural capital which we're often told is a liability, is actually an asset. And it introduces diversity of thought that can be inadvertently, or in some instances advertently, missed out by not having that diversity of thought and contributions in the rooms where the decisions are made. Power and influence. When we think about leadership, we always think at the very top. But you can have power and influence at a relatively lower level. I've just said how the network successfully advocated for the Race Equality Charter. And Shah and Jalal, former coaches who were instrumental in that, they're not members of the exec. They weren't sitting in those big rooms. We're leaning into how you can have power and influence. At middle leadership, leading from behind. You don't always have to lead from the top and the front. That was a big discussion topic there. And demystifying leadership. We're going to link it into sponsorship here because if you don't know anyone who's in those rooms and you don't know how to crack, say, the glass ceiling for women, concrete ceiling for ethnic minorities, if you don't know how to crack through that, you need somebody who can demystify that for you. And this is where the sponsors come in. This is the unique selling point for this program. So a lot of people are familiar with mentoring, mentorship. Somebody who will give you advice and guidance, how to go about doing something or getting something. But they won't lead you down that path themselves, will they? And a lot of people know a lot of people who would mentor them. And in terms of ethnic minorities who know what the ethnic minority mentors, they tend to be in relatively low-level positions, but they don't have that influence. There's acknowledgement that most of the people in those senior leadership roles who can act as sponsors are white. So there's an allyship that comes from a white senior leader agreeing to be your sponsor. And what sponsors do is they advocate. They talk about you in the room when you're not there. They get you into the room. So it's not a case of, oh, this is what you do to get into the room. They actually say, no, I'm going to bring you into the room. And they help to demystify leadership and what steps need to be taken to get in there. So all networks have a senior sponsor. So our former senior sponsor, Frank Carey, she helped, she was instrumental advocating, not suggesting, but advocating, saying this program needs to run. And she was instrumental in getting this program on the table, signed off to run. Another positive about this program as well that I will mention from a personal perspective is it's delivered by ethnic minorities for ethnic minorities. I have been in a career development program before that was delivered by a white man. And the program itself was fine. When it came to discussing the experiences we had, I remember there was one time, one colleague on that program at a different workplace, and he was going through a really rough time, and this coincided with Brexit, when unfortunately some people felt, well, I can say they're quite hot out loud now, comfortably, and the program deliverer turned around and said, I feel as if you're coming across like a bit of a victim, and that kind of hurt me in the chest. And it wasn't me who was saying it to, but it changed how I interacted with the program. It no longer felt safe and trustworthy. Whereas having ethnic minority deliverers, they understand, you know, not completely what you were going through, but it's beyond empathy. It's like, yeah, I've been there. This is how you navigate it. They could give you more practical tools, knowing exactly where you're coming from. Another thing the network has done is Decolonising the New Year, and this was a happy accident. This was not planned at all. So, New Year, obviously, in January, and we were having a discussion at the January network meeting, how late into January can you keep saying Happy New Year? Then we got into February, which was Lunar New Year, and we wanted to discuss it at the network meeting. So I was like, Happy New Year, everyone, Happy Lunar New Year for those who are celebrating in China and Southeast and East Asia. And then we had a bit more of jovial teasing, no more. So I took as a personal challenge to find as many New Years that are happening throughout the year. We're just going to the important point that we only recognize January the 1st and then Lunar New Year. What are the other New Years and the significance that has for different cultures? We have a large international student body, and even staff as well. Even if they're not from even if they're not international per se, but having those dual heritages have been British and Nigerian in my instance, or British and Malaysian. And they have other significant New Year celebrations. And it's not just about the diverse student body here, but also the diverse student body from a TNE perspective. So Matthew was telling me when we gave a shout out to Tamil New Year in April, he was having a conversation with an academic in Sri Lanka, and just mentioning that, he just felt more welcoming and have that discussion. And okay, there's deadlines in place for students. Students have to meet deadlines, but if you've got celebrations going on, you can't be looking at it from a British calendar perspective. You need to acknowledge the calendar for that country as well. So Reach Out is a one-stop education and entertainment reference section that we have within the network. And it's there for anyone who wants to learn, be educated, or be entertained in different forms of media, whether that's books, films, TV, the arts, culture, from different heritages, from different global perspectives. And what I've done is I've picked the first 3 books that myself, Shandeep, and Matthew suggested when we launched Reach Out earlier this year. And the 3 books, what they all have in common is that they are written by ethnic minorities, but there's the wide reach in terms of where the novels are coming from. So Wall of Thunder, Hear My Cry, by Mildred D. Taylor, African American, 1930s Mississippi. Brick Lane by Monica Ali, Bangladeshi British story set in London. And then Born a Crime, Stories from a South African Childhood by Trevor Noah. He'll be described as a mixed South African, but he identifies as a Black South African. And this is a memoir. Talk about a history that's taught in this part of the world and a history that's taught in other parts of the world. So when we think about one of the worst genocides in the world, rightly think about the Holocaust, don't we? That happened in Nazi Germany, or was instigated by Nazi Germany. Other parts of the world might think about the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot in Cambodia, Rwandan genocide as well. Depending on where your worldview is, which is more horrific? Obviously, they're all horrific, but where does your mind go to? The reason I've included this clip, which I stumbled across coincidentally, is it summarizes some of the conversations we've had in the network over the past year. Really hard conversations. So we have a feature called Topic of the Month. So whatever's going on in the news, that's what we talk about. And despite all of that, we somehow managed to end the meetings. A smile on our faces, some laughter, buoyed, and we're looking forward to the next one or getting on with our workday. So this video, with some humor, 3 minutes long, summarizes some of the topics that we have discussed in the network over the past year.
As an immigrant in Britain, sometimes it's not enough to merely contribute to the economy or prop up the NHS. It's also your job to make British people feel more comfortable with your existence. So, here's my handy guide to being the kind of immigrant British people don't mind so much. First of all, and I cannot recommend this highly enough, be white. Really. And if that just isn't possible, try to sound like this guy.
Good day.
Ahir hasn't chosen to be white, but he has gone and got himself a lovely little aristocratic accent. See how he sounds like Nish, but better?
Now, as Catherine pointed out, I did forget to choose to be white, which can be tricky. Catherine has loads of tiny brown bits on her, but they're known as freckles and are associated with being cute. Whereas I have one massive brown bit on me, and that's known as skin, and is associated with being see it, say it, sorted.
It is best not to be associated with a group that's linked to terrorism and popular consciousness. Though, remember, times do change. Next, English has to be your only language. British people are suspicious of anyone who knows more than one language. And in a way, why have you got a secret code that only you and your friends can understand? It's actually kind of childish if you think about it. Next up, in Britain, it's very important that you never be seen publicly sober. Am I right, Felicity?
You're right there, mate. They practically forget us Aussies are even immigrants because we're white, we can only speak English, and we fucking love a drink.
Nothing says useful contribution to society like ordering breakfast beers on a Tuesday.
Huh?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Why are Australians mainly white? You can be religious, but it's best to stick to Christianity, or one that's so confusing as to appear benign.
For example, my family are Hindu, a belief system with a long and complex history, which in Britain is mainly used to market things to vegans.
Great tipsy here. Looks like even solving British racism is being outsourced to India. Am I right, guys?
I'm from East London.
Yeah, but where are you originally from?
West London.
Jaeger bomb?
So remember, be white, only speak English, drink alcohol, and try not to be Muslim. If you followed each of these points correctly, then congratulations. You're being the kind of immigrant British people don't mind so much. Even you are here.
I am British.
That's the spirit.
That's our network. Join us if you are interested. You can email inclusion@sunderland.ac.uk to become a member, or you can have an informal discussion with myself, with Shandeep, or with Matthew. I finally find a photo of all three of us together. So yes, we are your co-chairs, or we are the co-chairs for the Reach Network. Just to summarize what it is that we do at Reach, together we speak up, speak out, and speak on. Thank you.